Okay, this is lesson 2. Lesson 1, if you watched that video, it was basically a how-to on to make your A, D, and E chords. Now, lesson 2, in order to go on to lesson 2, you have to be able to make those chords without looking at a chord diagram, because now we're going to talk about switching the chords. And we are going to be working on starting to put together our first song. So the first thing that you are going to do before you can do this, you've got to be able to, when it comes time to make a D, to be able to go 1, 2, 3. You've got to be able to switch in between these. Not that fast, but you've got to be able to work on switching. So in order to do that, before you can work on switching, you got to have it memorized. So if you don't have your chords memorized yet, pause the show, go back and watch the first video again, and spend probably 15, 20 minutes on making sure that you can make those chords without looking. You can look at your hands, but you won't be able to have time to look off of a piece of paper and do this next lesson. So that's just to get you started. So we're going to start off, the order that we are going to practice, we're going to start off with the A chord. And just a quick reminder, the A chord is here on the 1, 2, 3 string, your first finger. Second finger goes right above it. Third finger goes below. Now, I believe in the last lesson we talked about from switching from D to A. Going from A to D, you're going to go backwards. So you're sliding your third finger up, and then your second finger is going to run right through the middle of them. Make sure it gets all the way down here. So that's going to be your first step. And in order to do this, I've got a little thing that I say in class when we practice. We'll all practice this together. And we will strum. This is what I do. We strum the A and go D chord, going to the D chord. And you've got that much time to get there. That's quite a long time. Now notice I didn't take up all my hands and start all over again. Remember, our idea is this first finger stays right where it's at. Third finger stays on the same string. So your fingers should stay almost on the guitar the whole time. So you're going to go D chord, going to the D chord, A chord, back to the A chord, D chord, going to the D chord, A chord, back to the A chord. Notice that while I'm counting, I'm moving. I'm not sitting there listening to me talk, meaning I'm not going D chord, going to the D, and then all of a sudden, oh, I've got to move. I'm actually moving while I'm talking. So it's okay that once you hear me talk, D chords, go ahead and start moving, going to the D chord. But if you get there early, don't go ahead and strum. Wait and strum with everybody else. Does that make sense? Hope so. Even if you get there this quick, you still need to wait on everybody else to strum. Don't strum early. That's about timing. Now, the next thing that we're going to do for our song is we're going to be at a D chord. So we're going to go from A to D, and we're going to go from D to our new chord is E. That was the last chord I've covered, I believe, in lesson 1. And E chord, you're going to take your first finger, you're going to move it down to the first fret. It stays on the same string. So once again, just like when we were doing A to D, if there's something on the same string, just keep it on that string. Don't lift everything off. So the first thing you're going to do is move your first finger to the first fret. Then you're going to take your middle finger, and it's going to stay on the same fret, but you're going to switch it from the first string to the 5th string. So you're going almost to the top, but not to the top. And then the third finger is going to hop right below. So see if I can make sure that you can see that. We've got 1, 2, 3, okay? So here, second finger is on the 5th string, 2nd fret, and third finger, I'm having trouble talking today, is on the 4th string, 2nd fret. So 1st fret, 3rd string. So we're going to practice going back and forth. slide, move over, right behind it, okay? So same thing before, I'll start with D. We'll strum and go E chord, going to the E chord. D chord, going to the D chord. E chord, going to the E chord. D chord, going to the D chord. First finger, second finger, third finger. First finger, second finger, third finger. That's how you do it. One finger at a time, one note at a time. And if you get there early, don't strum, okay? So we've practiced from A to D, and then we practice going back and forth from D to E. So now we're going to put everything together. Now, remember, you may not be here yet. What we just covered may take you several days of practicing at 15, 20 minutes at a time. So right now that took, on your screen, you can see that it's taken us 6 minutes to get here. So if any of those things you've had trouble with or you don't have that memorized yet, pause for a second, go over it several times, practicing A to D, D to E, and just practice keeping your fingers on the frets as much as you can. Don't lift them up unless you just have to. That's the key to being able to switch fast. Meaning if you have to take all your hands off and do this each time, it doesn't quite get sped up. It takes a lot longer. So I'm taking up from right here of that you've paused and practiced on each of those things for a little bit. Now, maybe not. Maybe you've kept up really good. But if you're having trouble with this, you may need to go back, and that's okay. And you may need to watch this video several times through the week. That's why I'm putting it on a video. If we could remember everything, there would be no sense in putting something out on video. So this is here for you to go through as many times. You may even need to go back and watch the last video. Okay, so we're going to do this again. Starting at A, then we're going to go to D, then we're going to go to E, and back to D. We've practiced every scenario because we practiced from A to D, and at the end you're also going to go from D to A, right? So we practiced that, and then we practice from D to E, and then we practice going back. So we practice every single spot. So that's why the first part is so important. You may need to stop and do it a few more times, but now we're going to do the same thing, only we're going to put all of them together. A, D, E, D. Much slower than what I just did. I'm just giving you a fast forward replay of what we're going to do. So starting on A, once again, make sure that my thumb's not hanging out here on top. I've got it flat back behind. I've got space in between my hand. If you look, I've got plenty of space. Make sure that your hand doesn't do this, keeping your hands off, okay? As soon as I do this, I can't switch. Everything's too close. I need to spread my hand out, okay? That's how it should look. Tips of the fingers, okay. You'll hear me say that a lot. Okay, starting on A, 1, 2, A to D. D chord, going to the D chord. E chord, going to the E chord. D chord, going to the D chord. A chord, back to A chord. Let's do it again. D chord, going to the D chord. E chord, going to the E chord. D chord, going to the D chord. And back to A chord. D chord, going to the D chord. E chord, going to the E chord. D chord, back to the D chord, A chord, back to A chord, and strum. Now, lesson mastery, meaning you have this down cold, you can do everything, is when you can play all three of those times with me without getting behind or forgetting what you're doing. So rewind your video to, I believe it started somewhere around 8:45, 8 minutes 45 seconds. Rewind that as many times as you need to. If you can't keep up with me going from A to D, then pause, work on A to D. If you can't go back and forth between E and D, pause and go do it. That's why we do this. And then get it to about 8:45 and go through that. And if you can keep up with me and strum with me, then you've got it mastered. Otherwise, you need to keep working. This may take 2 hours. This may take 2 days. This may take 2 weeks. But if you keep plugging along with it, you will have it mastered. This will be our first song. This is Wild Thing. So for those of you that want to know what Wild Thing sounds like, it does this. That is Wild Thing right there. That's what we're working towards. But in order to do it, we've got to be able to switch between these a bit faster. So we're starting, what we're doing is 8 beats right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What I've got to be able to do is through the next couple of weeks get you to where you're switching. Now, if there's somebody out there that can't do that, don't worry about it. You're not supposed to be able to do it yet. Now, if you're getting cocky and you think, hey, I'm going to be able to do that next week, I would love for you to come in to be able to do this next week. It's just not supposed to be that way. You know, it's in steps. First, you learn it in 8, then you learn it in 4, and then eventually you get it in 2 beats. So take your time, but you know where you're going now. If you've got any questions, come in the morning and we'll go over it together. But don't try to rush yourself through. The important thing is that your hand position is staying correct and getting from point A to point B without starting all over each time, like going 1, 2, taking your hands off. That takes too much time. Remember, keep it on. If it's on the same string, work on keeping your fingers down, okay? So that is lesson 2, Wild Thing in 8 beats.